what's up? Welcome back to my channel, Koki Creative. My name is Elena, and today we are doing another speed build. And this is not just any normal speed build, this is actually part of a big collaboration project that I did with 20 other simmers. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of this collaboration also, because it was super fun and also kind of nostalgic for me, so I do appreciate it. So before I dive into the details of this particular build, let me just quickly talk about the collaboration project. What we had to do was choose a building or an apartment or something like that from a TV show or a movie and try to recreate that on The Sims. And it is so much fun. If you haven't done that before, I definitely suggest, even if you're not a big builder, just choose one of your favorite TV shows and try to recreate it. It is super fun, especially if you're just a really big fan of that TV show. It kind of connects you a little bit more to the show and, you know, the emotions you felt while watching that show. So I chose BoJack Horseman's house, and I love that show. It's definitely one of my favorites. It's a Netflix original, so if you haven't seen it but you are interested, if you have Netflix, definitely go and check that out. And it's completely done now. It's completely released, so there's 6 seasons, and I won't go too deep into the show, but it starts out kind of funny, and there's definitely funny parts throughout the entire show, but it's also really intense, emotional, and it's definitely made me cry on more than one occasion. So if you're looking for a really unique animated show that is kind of intense, you know, go check that out. And so this house is the main house you see all the time. This is BoJack Horseman's house. It's set in Hollywood or Hollywood, whichever one you want to say, depending on what part of the show you're on. And it was, okay, so it looks really big from the outside, but it really isn't that large of a house, thank goodness, because this would have taken me forever. If you do notice, there's a lot of times in this recording where I'm kind of stopping, starting. That's because I was looking at my phone the entire time at screenshots from the show, really trying to get this as accurate as possible. And let me tell you, that is not easy, especially for an animated show that is a little bit like the dimensions of things are just slightly, like the proportions of things are sort of wonky because it is animated, but it did kind of make it a little bit easier at times too, because The Sims is also kind of cartoony. So I'm really happy with the way it turned out. Is it perfect? No. But is anything perfect? No. I had a really hard time trying to get the details of the front of the house perfect, because the front of the house has no windows. And it has this very, I don't want to say the word iconic, but it has this very just like set look. Like if you mess up the front of the house, then you don't have the look right. And I end up changing all these pillars because it just wasn't giving me the right look I was going for. So yes, I was being extremely picky. I also edited this down so much because I probably spent, like 10-ish hours on it. Maybe more, I don't know. So there's some parts that I didn't even record just because they were just laying down one item and repeating it over and over again. So you're welcome. You don't have to watch and sit through all of that. I'm glad that after editing this video, it ended up only being 28 minutes. So it's easy to just kind of watch if you want to just sit down and quickly watch a speed build. And if you are a fan of the show, hopefully you do enjoy this and think that I did a decent job. I mean, sure, yes, again, I said I know it's not perfect, but I do hope that it does look decent. Now, again, the outside of the house, I will just show at the end of the video some before and afters, or more like show and then into my build, just so you can see what it looks like. But if you also are interested in just looking at those pictures right now, you can go all the way to the end of the video or check out my Instagram. I have these all uploaded. You can also check this out in the gallery too. So if you want to live in BoJack Horseman's Hollywood house, go right ahead. You can do that. To get the details too just right, I found these little, I don't even know what to call them, but the wall decals from Dine Out. And usually you use them to like make a little sign for your restaurant, but it kind of worked perfectly for the entire exterior of the house. His exterior again has no windows in the front, but it's surrounded by this like gray border, and it just worked so perfectly. I did have to use the tool mod quite a bit, and I did edit out a lot of that just because it is so repetitive. There's no reason why you have to see all of that. You get the gist. You do. So making his garage was something that I wanted to get just right also, because it's like the one detail on the outside of his house that is at least in the front yard, that I just wanted to nail. So as you can tell, I did edit some of that out also, and oh gosh, this part just took me so long. I just remember looking at a picture of his house, the front yard. I'm like, I've got to get the proportions right. Which, you know, in The Sims is always hard because you have to work with the traditional tile, and there's only so much you can do. You can't really can't move it around too much. But I am happy with the way that turned out, especially using the tool mod. I did what I could. I know the garage doors aren't exactly even, but you know, you only notice that if you are really, really paying attention. I set this in Del Sol Valley, which I think I said before, but it is just the perfect house that just emulated the view from his bedroom, the view from his pool. I could not quite get the pool part right, the deck, just because I would have to really sink in the ground a lot, and it's already over kind of like a cliff. So I did what I could. I did sink the ground in a little bit, and landscaping the front, I wasn't quite sure because they don't really show his front yard all that much. So I just kind of bordered it with some shrubbery, which you can see in the show. And again, you will be able to see those in the pictures from the show that I show. But I kind of had to guess a lot of parts of this house. Like bathrooms, they only show a little bit of bathrooms. They only show certain angles of certain rooms. So I did have to kind of guess a lot. But I mean, that's part of the fun of this collaboration project. It's just taking what you know of the show and then, you know, kind of putting your little own touch on it. The exterior took me so long. I remember, I think I was recording this part, just the exterior, for 4 hours one night because I was like, I have to get this done and let me just try to get this right. Like this part right here, you can see I'm looking down at my phone trying to get the windows right. And I couldn't quite get windows to match his office the way I wanted it to. So I did have to end up settling on some windows that I wasn't quite a fan of, but I still think that if you look at the overall picture, it does look just like his house. So when you look down at the little details, yeah, okay, there's gonna be some issues. But his back deck right here is one of the most important parts of this build, just because there's a lot of scenes that take place out here on his deck. Some of the most important scenes of the show, actually, and even the intro, which, oh gosh, if I could have the copyrights to that song, it would be in this video. I love the intro song and then also the extra song. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, just kind of Google that. I don't want to get in trouble with YouTube. The song that I use at the very, very end to kind of walk through some of the pictures is a song that sounds as close as I could find to the song in the show. So if you do know what I'm talking about, hopefully you can kind of hear what I mean by that. But the exterior actually, as far as like recreating something goes, BoJack Horseman's house is very sim friendly. It's very boxy, and it's so easy to kind of get a good look. I'm not the first person to recreate his house. I just looked up to kind of see who else has done it. I saw a couple in the gallery. I saw a couple YouTube videos. So I do hope that mine's interesting to watch because yeah, I know I'm not the first one. Just like if I were to recreate Monica's apartment from Friends, I would not be the first one. And yeah, so here I am putting the pool in, and to put a pool, all right, just letting you guys know, to put a pool, if you have like a deck like this, so if it has foundation that has like pillars, you need to put another foundation before putting the pool down because it does not like that. And here I'm switching out those pillars with these debug items. And I know the pillars, it's not a huge difference, but if you look at the pictures of, or have seen the show of BoJack, the little lines on his house are really, really thin, and the pillars were just too thick. And I know it's like such a small detail, but it was something that I really, really wanted to get right, especially because I knew I wanted the picture on Instagram to be the front of his house and a side by side. So I was like, I've got to get this right. You know, when it's like you're watching a cooking show and they're making like a risotto, but like, or something like that. Trust me, I have a point here. And they're like making it very simple, like traditional, you have to get it right. And so this house is pretty plain. So if you want to get it to look like the real thing, you have to get it as accurate as possible. Okay, you don't have to, but that was my thinking behind it. And here, this is the part where I kind of am just guessing. I know there are bushes in the front. I know along the driveway, there are these little, like, I don't know, like agave kind of, that's not the right word, but some sort of plants that come along. So I counted how many there were. I put the right amount. And I also lined the driveway with these brick. And I didn't even record the part. I used the tool mod to lower the bricks correctly. It took me about 2 hours just for that. And was it worth it? Probably not. Such a small detail, but some of the bricks were floating because I played around with the terrain tool since the lot it's on is not flat. But yeah, here's the garage, and the garage I had to completely make up. Bojack has, at the first few seasons, he's a black car. Okay, I've seen the show probably 4 times. I'm rewatching it for a 5th. And in the 3rd season, I think he gets this yellow Tesla, and I could not find a completely yellow car. I could have done an all black car, and even though the living room is actually based on the first season furniture, I put the 3rd season car in there just because I do like the yellow car. I think it's a little bit more memorable than the black car he has, so that's why I did that. And here, this part really annoys me. See how he has on the front door, there's that rug. It's actually like 2 steps. The house is very like 80s, 90s kind of modern. That's when he bought the house. And I thought about doing the thing where you can make a sunken in room, but it would have just been way too complicated, especially with the deck and the pool. So I just kept the rug there to kind of make it look like how it looks in the show. It's not quite perfect, but you know, you have to play around and see what you can do. I cut out also a lot in this living room. I wanted to have the more magenta color couches that he has in the newer seasons, but I could not find a color that matched. It was either a bright pink or a red, and it just was not happening. So I picked the gray one he has in the first season or 2, and I picked that kind of living room, and I'm happy with it. It's, I mean, I'm sure people that are watching this aren't like, wow, I can't believe you used the first season furniture. I almost tried catching the footstool on fire because it is on fire. It's like, I'm pointing to my TV I was watching earlier. The footstool is like burnt up in the first season due to some mishaps. But I was like, I'm not going to be that extra today. Not today. I would have. Like, if I had time, I'd catch it on fire. But I just didn't feel like accidentally catching the whole house on fire. Here I'm also using the tool mod once again. I wanted to get this just right because his living room does not have a lot of detail. There's no clutter. It's just a very modern house. So I needed to get these details just right. And his TV is like another part where they spent a lot of time in this living room. So I really wanted to get the TV part right and at the right angle. And this part, oh my gosh, I did edit out some of this just because it takes so long, but his whole entire house is kind of surrounded by these like light fixtures that there was nothing that I could make that looked similar to that, so I did use an end table. I lifted it up, and I'm actually pretty happy with the way it turned out. If you do play with this build, it might get a little annoying because if you put it on like half walls, you'll still see these, but it's not really that much in the way, especially because there's not a lot of clutter in this house. And then I put some light fixtures in there since around the entire exterior, there's, you know, I don't even know what to call them, what I did with the light fixtures in them. So I try to get that as accurate as possible. His blinds are also this shade of pink, which I never noticed. I never noticed how many shades of pink were in his house, but you know, that's just part of the fun of recreating things, is like discovering little details of a show that you really like that you just never noticed before. Moving on to the kitchen, this part took me a long time. Again, another thing that I did edit out a good bit of. The kitchen is another place I spent a lot of time in. The next thing is going to be the office. The rest of the house I kind of had a guess on, but the kitchen I wanted to get right, and it's a very simple kitchen, but it's also a place where they spend a lot of time, and I couldn't quite get the dimensions just right. If I could, I would have made it slightly larger, but there wasn't really enough space for that, so I had to just kind of go with the flow, roll with the punches, try to see what I could do. Finding the right shade of cabinetry was so hard. As you can see, I looked at all the swatches, and this is even me cutting out a little bit. I placed some, I took it away, took it away, but all I knew was I needed it to be kind of grayish with black countertops, and I know that sounds really simple, but it wasn't. There's also this like breakfast bar area that I wanted to get right, and so what I used was, at first I thought the only breakfast bar that was high that you could put these kind of chairs where was from Dine Out, but then I remembered there is one from Discover University, and that saved the day. It's this plain black one. It works so perfectly. If well, not if, you're gonna see the pictures at the end. Once you look at the before and after, I keep calling before and after. Once you look at the real pictures and then these, it'll be like, oh yeah, that is like similar. It is floating slightly, but it's hard to tell that the chairs are floating, which is nice because that would be annoying if you could tell, but you can't. So the chairs are floating just because I had to lift it up to give it the kind of illusion that it looks like in the show. But, you know, your Sims can still sit on it. I think. I think they can, if I'm thinking correctly. I did not play test this house, only because this house was strictly meant to look like BoJack Horseman's house. That being said, I think it's 100% playable. I didn't do anything so crazy that it would be like, I don't know, in the way of things. So I tried to keep everything, just that in the back of my mind. I really wanted to see, it might possibly be playable. I just also didn't have time to play test it. Here I am adding that overhead lighting that also, like I said, goes around the entire house. I am using a different end table for this one, and I end up using this end table consistently. I didn't switch out the other ones with this end table. I kind of wish I did, just because I do like the shade of it, but you honestly wouldn't be able to tell the difference. They have very similar shade of like wood grain, so it does match really well. So I was like, yeah, I don't need to switch it. It looks good, it looks fine. And here are the cabinets. I try to get gray overhead cabinets just like he has in the show, and then I finish by surrounding the entire rest of the kitchen with these end tables to make them look like these overhead lights, which are really cool. And as you can see, I just kind of went ahead because you don't need to see me putting them everywhere. Like, you get it. Just click the 9 key, it'll go up, if you're wondering how I did that. I did kind of fix the lights a little bit. As you can tell, it was hard to get them just right, you know, because I didn't want to put them on the grid because it wouldn't pop exactly where I need to be. Pop, I should say, like lock where I need it to be. So I did have to like move it back, and I tried to make it as even as possible, but when you're in gameplay and you're looking, it all looks very even. So I did my best. Here is the dining room. They don't show it all that often, but I did find a couple clips where they are sitting in this spot. This table was the closest I could get. The swatches are a little off, but it really, you wouldn't notice. It's just a slightly different shade of brown. And I know it's like, that's such a small detail, but that was how much I was really, really wanting to get this just on point. And in the kitchen right here, he has like this little tiny thing of like succulents and cacti. So I really wanted to make sure that I put that in there, because the little details I think are what kind of make the build a little bit. I almost put a few like inside jokes here and there, but I did not have time. Like, I wanted to put something of Todd's, like maybe a blanket of his somewhere, and some other little, you know, things from the show. Sprinkle it throughout the build, but I didn't quite have time. There are little things here and there, like I said, with the car in the garage and stuff like that, but yeah. And the reason why I put this, you might think, wow, that doesn't go with the build at all. But I found this picture, you'll see it in the end, where it has just the right angle. You look into the room, and there's like this hanging tapestry in this like weird side room that they never go into. So that was my guess what the tapestry looked like. And that little horse on the pillar thing that I put in the living room is another thing from the show. I did, when I was watching this morning, I saw a glimpse of that like horse on a pillar. And these are the things that like they don't show that often, but when you do see, you're like, oh, I guess that is there. So that's why I put that there. It's not a super noticeable thing from the show. Like, if you watch the show, you'll easily miss it, but I tried to get like little details like that as correct as possible. Where I'm putting this custom gallery art by Simsational 2 on the wall, there is a, what's it called? a closet right behind that door. And in the living room, technically there is supposed to be a closet door that leads into this, but looking at the pictures, you don't always see that closet door because it's an animated series, so they sometimes won't draw the door. So I did not put the door just because in the screenshots that I found, they didn't have the door in the living room. So if you're like, Elena, there's the door and there's a closet in the living room, like I do know. Trust me, I know more than I should know right now. But yeah, I had to play around with that. And here is me just trying to get the best swatch of things in his office. This is besides his bedroom, the last room that we're gonna really see in the show all the time that I had to recreate. And the office is another place that you were at all the time. And I really, really wish I could have gotten a better photo for behind his desk, because this is like a really, I don't know, I want to use the word iconic, but that's not the right word. That's like way too intense. It's just, if you know the show, you'll know the painting in BoJack's office behind his desk. It's him looking in the pool at himself swimming naked. And the entire show, like, I don't know, their art is like a kind of a big thing in his house. He has a lot of like pop art, especially stuff from kind of the 90s. He doesn't talk about it much, but it's obviously something he's into. Tons of horse art. And let me tell you, can't find a lot of horse art in the gallery even. There's not a lot of horse art in the catalog, so I had to just go with things that were pop art, things with color. And I don't know how to make gallery art, something I've been kind of interested in. I would have tried to recreate all of the gallery art if I had the time and the patience, but I didn't have the time. Do I have the patience? Actually, yeah, I think I would. But as far as time went, I just didn't. And here I put alcohol all over his office. Yes, that's not just olive oil. That is supposed to be alcohol because if you are familiar with the show, he does have quite a drinking problem. So I wanted to just kind of put this in. There are a lot of scenes in BoJack where he'll be in his office and it's just completely like littered everywhere with alcohol bottles. So this is a little bit more cleaned up. I wanted to be like, this is kind of like his base level of where his house is. I have no idea. But there's one point where him and Todd, his like roommate, are playing pool, and I guessed that maybe the pool table would be in the office because they never show this side. I'm probably completely wrong, but I couldn't find another place in the house where the pool table would be, so that's what I did. And so this bathroom, I just guessed because there are just some very short scenes where he's walking in the bathroom, or I won't say any names because it'll give away stuff in the show, but other people are walking in the bathroom, and it's this color scheme. There's 2 bathrooms, I think, in his house. I think there's a downstairs, I think there's an upstairs. I could be wrong. I've never seen, like Netflix or the creators of the show never actually released, maybe they have, but any kind of layout of his house. So this is all kind of speculation, and the best I could make up was this layout right here. And so I just like kind of went through the show in my head thinking, okay, every time I went to the bathroom, I did find some tiny pictures online, but I didn't do any screenshots of the bathrooms for Instagram or anything. So if you do want to play this, you have a lot of bathrooms. I made this guest bedroom because at one point, I'm pretty sure he mentioned that there is a guest bedroom. So his roommate actually sleeps on the couch. That's a whole nother thing. But he did have this one person, again, I don't want to give away the show, live with him for a while, and I'm pretty sure she was sleeping in the guest bedroom. So this is the only spot in the house where I couldn't account for what would be there. So I put this kind of like this guest bedroom that what I also imagine would be where he kind of stored his old costumes or stored all like this old stuff. I kind of put a little Hollywood glam in there with the artwork and then the mirror, because I figured, what would BoJack have? He wouldn't have like this nice second bedroom. It would just be more of like a storage room. At least that's kind of what I would kind of assume he would have. I'm not 100% sure, but that's just my guess. And this hallway, they do kind of show it here and there in the show. You'll just kind of see it in the background, and it has art kind of throughout. The stairs, they almost absolutely never show. You do see like in the background where you can walk up the stairs, so I did put the stairs in the proper place. But yeah, and it's so funny, I did not know this until making the show. I had no idea that his bedroom was the upstairs. Like, I just never thought of it. And it's funny because like it makes sense. Like, it has a nice view, it's up high, but I never noticed that the bedroom was upstairs until I was making it. I'm like, wow, I guess his bedroom's upstairs. Another reason why you should recreate one of your favorite TV show builds in The Sims, because you figure out things that you never really thought about. And I'm just kind of like finishing up the build here. The bedroom is not cluttered at all. Bojack's style is very like modern and like minimalist with lots of pop art. Another place I really, really wish I could have gotten some custom gallery art. I could not find it. He has horseshoe paintings. Again, you'll see this in the before and afters. I keep calling before and afters. You'll see it in the show back in side-by-side pictures here at the end of the video. But I just wanted to get it right. This bathroom annoyed me because I really wanted to get this bathroom the right one. He does have this bathroom with a big horse mosaic thing behind the tub, and it's just, I couldn't quite get it. But that's just a nod to that. It's not like a really, really important room, but it's enough where it was like, I wanted to do it justice. But I did my best. And this is another place where they do show just, again, every so often. I'm just trying to add like details I would assume are in the build. The layout is completely wrong because if he were to be looking in the mirror, you can see the tub in the back. But I considered repositioning the house, but I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. So this seating area is another part that I just completely made up. I just guessed on it. And then from there, I also make a closet, and that's it. That's the whole build. Like I said, it's not as big as what it looks like on the outside, but it is actually a pretty spacious house. So you can actually find this in the gallery right now under Koki Creative. Thank you guys so much for watching today. I really appreciate it. If you like this video, you can give me a big thumbs up. Maybe let me know what you think. If you want to see more of my videos, just hit that subscribe button. If you don't want to see any more videos, that's totally fine. Does not offend me at all. But I do hope to see you guys next time. Bye.